Here we go. This is the Fall Guys tier list. We are doing an objective ranking of every level in the game. This is gonna be my criteria. So we've got 5 tiers here. S, A, B, C, D. To get S tier, a map has to be good enough that if it was the only map in the entire game, I would still play the game. That's what qualifies an S tier map. Really good maps will go in A tier, and then we'll go lower from there, and D tier is like, this map sucks. It should be, it needs fixes. I wish it wasn't in the game. That's how we'll do. And chat, feel free to shit on my opinions, tell me how dumb I am, and tell me where things should go when I put things in the wrong spot. We're gonna go category by category. What should we start with? Team, logic, hunt, survival, or race? Alright, we'll start with team. We've got 3 votes for team. Here we go. We'll get this out of the way right here. Where is it? Where is it? Hoarders. Hoarders is the worst fucking game in all of Fall Guys. Hoarders sucks. I hate it. I want it gone. The reason that I think Hoarders is terrible is because of how much of a toss-up it is. There's a major lack of control in terms of your team's score. It's very easy for things to just swing randomly out of control, to go from 6 balls to 2 balls to 0 balls, whatever. And it sucks to lose because your team just gets unlucky with trying to defend balls and has them ricochet out of your area and go to another team. In line with this, I'm going to put Egg Scramble here in C tier. I think Egg Scramble as a whole is just a strictly better version of Hoarders, which is also one of the reasons why I think Hoarders is as bad as it is. Egg Scramble accomplishes the same exact idea where your team is trying to control a number of objects, but with Egg Scramble you actually have a lot more control over things because you have your deeper basket and you also have a lot more control on actually being able to grab an egg and hold it. Moving on from that, we can go with Team Tail Tag. Team Tail Tag, I think, is a C tier game. I think it's okay. I think the tail games as a whole aren't very great. I think Team Tail Tag suffers because when you get a tail, there's not really much you can do, right? It's a team game where you're trying to make sure that your team has the most amount of tails. But the way that you can get your team to get other tails, you're very limited in that. When you have a tail, it's basically just hide in a corner or run away from things. You can't really get your team members' tails. In theory, you can hold back other members of other teams, other opponents, to try and get your team to grab them. But in actuality, that almost never happens, and when you do try to do it, it doesn't work out well because you're trying to set up someone on your team who you can't communicate with to grab a person. Going on from this, let's go Rock and Roll. Rock and Roll, I think, is a B tier game. I think Rock and Roll is fine. I think it's one of the better team games. In line with that, I'll also put Fall Ball up here. I think Fall Ball is fine. In terms of team games, these are the ones that I want to see. When I see the team pop up, these are the ones I want to see. Fall Ball gets very chaotic when there is either an uneven amount of players or it's a very large group, because then ball control just becomes a super big issue. Like, when you have a 9v9 fall ball, it's impossible to get anything done. When you have those 5v5 fall ball games, though, it's a really, really fun mode. Rock and Roll, I also think, is just, it's like a race. It's like the race maps. I think the race maps in general are the best maps that the game has, and it's in line with that. There's a bit of strategy in terms of trying to divide your team to go block off an opponent, and there are teams that I've seen get greedy and send their entire team down to try and defend, and they don't even get their ball over the ledge. I think Rock and Roll also, in general, is a short map as well, which lends to its favor. There are times where it goes down to 2 teams blocking each other. I don't remember who it was who had said it in chat the other day, but someone had said that they had 2 teams just like time out on it, so the team that got furthest won based on distance because the timer ran out. But I think these 2 team games are the best 2 team games that are on offer right now. I'm going to put Jinxed in C tier. We'll order in tiers here, so I think Egg Scramble is better than Jinxed. I think Jinxed is worse than Team Tail Tag. My biggest issue with Jinxed is it's so rare. It almost never shows up. The good thing about it, though, is that when it does show up, it cuts half the lobby. That's something I really like about it. It's one of those games that also feels like a huge swing and a huge toss-up as well, though. Actually, I'll put it above Team Tail Tag. I think it's more fun than Team Tail Tag. I think it's more chaotic than Team Tail Tag. I think it gives you an objective both ways as well, which Team Tail Tag doesn't really do. Team Tail Tag, it's either you're looking for a tail or you're hiding. In Jinxed, I feel like it's the same concept. You're either trying to get away from a person who's jinxed or you're trying to jinx someone. But because of the numbers, it's a lot more engaging and it's more chaotic. Oh, Hoopsie Daisy, Hoopsie Daisy. I forgot Hoopsie Daisy. No, Hoopsie Daisy's B tier. Hoopsie Daisy is B tier. I think it's better than Egg Scramble. Originally, I didn't like it as much just because there is that RNG aspect on where the rings end up and where the gold rings tend to end up. But the more that I've played it, the more that I've, at least in my experience, seen that the better teams normally pull away with a pretty dominant lead. Yeah, gold rings are worth 5 points. I think Hoopsie Daisy is a better minigame than Egg Scramble. I think it's good enough to be in B tier. I think it's enough better than these 3 team games to be in the upper tier. I think it's about on par with like a crowded Fall Ball as well. I think in a less crowded situation, Fall Ball is definitely a more fun game. I guess we can do the logic and the hunt right now, because those are small ones here. So we've got Perfect Match, which I'm gonna put down here with Hoarders. I'm gonna put it ahead of Hoarders. I think Perfect Match is extremely boring. It's a memory game that's reliant on you remembering where fruits are, but the majority of the time you don't even have to think. You just have to walk where the majority of people are. For the most part, it is a dead round where when you go into it, barely anybody dies. I have seen games where large amounts of people have died, but those are few and far between. They're outliers rather than what's to be expected. And it's also just not a fun game to do. It's just sitting, watching shapes, and then you run to a spawn. It's just not a fun game. It's not fun to play. It's not very difficult. I'd imagine it's not very fun to watch either. Along with that, we can do the hunt, which I will put Tail Tag here. Ooh, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. So I think, before I put this in a tier, I think Tail Tag is better than Team Tail Tag. I think the reason that Team Tail Tag is worse is that you can, in Team Tail Tag, start with a tail, hold the tail for the entire 2 minutes of the game, and still lose because all of your teammates are garbage, and they just lose all their tails. Individual Tail Tag doesn't have that issue. As long as you're able to control your own tail, you're fine. And I think, as a whole, that makes the game a lot more fun. The question is whether Tail Tag is a C tier game or a B tier game, and that's where things get a bit dicey. It's definitely better than Team Tail Tag, but is it good enough to be in B tier? I think right now it is. We might come back to this one. This might get dropped down to C tier, depending on how some of the later stuff gets ranked. But right now, I'm okay with putting it at like the low end of B tier. I think it's markedly better than Team Tail Tag. I think it's better than these 3 team games as a whole. Whether or not it belongs in a tier above them or just at the upper end of C tier, that will remain to be seen. We can do Survival. Survival only has 3. Let's go for Rollout. I'm gonna put Rollout here in C tier. Where do I think it ranks, though? I'm gonna put Rollout here under Egg Scramble, above Jinxed. I think Rollout suffers from the same issue that I mentioned with Perfect Match, where it's just not a fun game. I think if the cylinders were spinning faster, or if they sped up throughout the round, it would be a lot more interesting. Rollout better than Jinxed, really? That's a good question. I think it's better than Team Tail Tag. Is it better than Jinxed or not? No, I'm gonna put it behind Jinxed. I think Jinxed cutting out half the lobby puts it just above Rollouts. Rollout's very hard to lose on from my experience. Sometimes it lasts way longer than it should. And it also only eliminates how many? It eliminates 40% compared to Jinx 50%. We'll leave it there for now. I think that's a good spot. Jump Club. I think Jump Club's a B tier game. I'm gonna put it below Tail Tag. I think Tail Tag being as chaotic as it is, and I think this solidifies Tail Tag as being B tier. I think Tail Tag being more chaotic and hectic than Jump Club seals it. I think Jump Club is a solid game, but it's very hard to lose on. It's one of those consistent games, which is nice. But as it starts to speed up, it doesn't really get more chaotic. You just fall into a pattern that you repeat over and over again, and you're just waiting for other people to choke. But I think it's a good game. Block Party, I will also I'll put B tier. I think it's better than Egg Scramble. Do I think it's better than Jump Club? I do think it's better than Jump Club. I think the main issue with Block Party is the set amount of ending patterns. I think if there was more variety to that, it would be a lot more hectic. But once you see the first block that's coming out, you can just move in sequence after that. Same with throughout the round too, because everything, it follows a set amount of sequences, right? And once you see what the start of a sequence is, you can just follow that. I do think that the reason why Block Party is better than Jump Club is, in general, it's more chaotic, it's more hectic, and it also has the potential to eliminate more of the lobby, which I think makes it better. Now we can move on to races. This is where things are gonna get a tiny bit controversial here. And I'm gonna start off with Seesaw, and I think Seesaw is C tier. Seesaw, in terms of the races, is on the low end. And the reason for that is length. The more that I've played Seesaw, the more that I dread it coming up. It's one of two scenarios that you run into with Seesaw. It's either you're in the front of the pack, and you make it to the end before everybody else, and you have to wait for 2.5 minutes for everybody else to qualify, or you are in the back of the pack, and then you just have to wait for a bunch of idiots to get on the Seesaw. Oh, it should be above Egg Scramble, I think. I don't know, I thought I put it at the top, but it should be above Egg Scramble. I think if it was, instead of like the race where it's just a certain amount of people get to the end, and then sometimes it does time out, I think if it was on a timer, a set timer, and had the potential to eliminate more of the lobby, I think it would be a lot more interesting. And it would also just not be as boring to get to the end and then just have to wait for everybody and see everybody slide down seesaws. I like the idea for the map. It's just, the more that I've played it, the more time that you have to wait, and it kind of sucks. We'll also get this out of the way now because everybody knows it's coming. Slime Climb is S tier. Slime Climb is the best race map in the entire game. It's an incredible map. I wish there were more maps like Slime Climb. Even just the slime mechanic on its own is incredible. The amount of potential that this map alone has to cut a lobby down is incredible. And I wish that there were more areas where people could fall into slime and just get instantly eliminated. I think that that would make a lot more maps more interesting. And I hope in the future that slime as a whole gets added in more places to maps going forward. Slime Climb is just an awesome map. It's just really good. There are shortcuts, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it, there's huge amounts of potential to throw people off the map. The slime adds a constant threat. It's an incredibly designed map. It's by far the best race map in the entire game. It's amazing. If Slime Climb was the only map in the entire game, I would still play it and probably enjoy it just as much as I currently do. Hit Parade, I'm gonna put A tier. I think Hit Parade's very good. I think Hit Parade nails the chaotic dynamic. I think Hit Parade's a map that you can completely get screwed over on. I think it's a map where you can just run away with it, but I think it does it in a good way, and it's a much shorter map than Seesaw is. I think that one section where you have that gate that closes on the center, opens on the sides, and then opens on the center and closes off the sides, that choke point there is awesome. I think just seeing people try to rush through that and try to break their way in, it's fun. It's a nice map. I'm also gonna put Whirligig here. I think Whirligig I enjoy more than Hit Parade. I love the mid section at the end. I love being able to get boosts off of the spinners. I think it's a very cool map. There's a lot of fun things that you can do there. I think Whirligig does almost fall into the same issue with Seesaw where people can choke it and it can get to the point where it becomes obnoxiously long. But in general, it's a fun map. I'm also going to put Gate Crash up here in A tier. I think the best thing about Gate Crash is how short it is. It's also very chaotic, but it's more consistent than like a DoorDash is. When you know the cycles on Gate Crash, you pretty much just get through every single time. The final jump is awesome, that slide is great. It's a very short map, a very fast map, it's awesome. I'm gonna put DoorDash here at the very top of B tier. I'm gonna put it ahead of Rock and Roll. I think it's a good race map. I think it's just slightly worse than the ones in A tier to merit putting it a tier below. I think the best thing about DoorDash is how chaotic it gets, how much of it can just turn into a Black Friday clusterfuck of people trying to run through doors. I think that's awesome. I think it's a ton of fun. It's chaotic. It's great. But I also feel like these 3 maps in A tier, in general, I have more fun with than DoorDash. And that's the reason why I'm putting DoorDash down in B tier. I'm also going to put Dizzy Heights here in B tier as well. I think Dizzy Heights is a solid map. I think the spinners are fun, but I think the thing about it that puts it below these other race maps is it lacks the chaos that a map like Hit Parade and Gate Crash has. It's just slightly boring, slightly forgettable, not as interesting as like a good game of Hit Parade or Gate Crash can get, where you see everybody rushing for the end. But it's a solid map. It's a good map, like a lot of the races are. The races are just fun. I'm gonna put Tiptoe here. Ooh. I'm gonna put Tiptoe A tier. I think Tiptoe is awesome. I think Tiptoe is a really fun map. My main disappointment with Tiptoe is I just don't get it as often as other things, because it normally only shows up towards the end. But I think that Tiptoe, the thing that I like about it the most is being able to plan out a path because of the fake shaking blocks. I think that there's a lot of strategy to that. I think there's a lot of chaos that can happen when you fall off towards the end of a path and you have to try and rush your way back before people figure out the way to get through. I think it gets very chaotic when you have a bunch of a group trying to balance themselves on 2 tiles. I think it's a good balancing act of trying to be a front runner and a trailblazer and also trying to not burn yourself out because you try to go too fast. I think it's a very interesting map. I like the whole hidden path idea. I think I enjoy it more than DoorDash, which is why I'm gonna put it up here in A tier. Fruit Shoot, Fruit Shoot, Fruit Shoot. What do I say about Fruit Shoot? I don't even know where to put Fruit Shoot. Fruit Shoot's a clusterfuck. The good aspects of Fruit Shoot are that it's very chaotic. It's a race up a ramp, just trying not to get hit by fruits. I think I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it just above Tail Tag. I don't enjoy it as much as the other races that are in B tier. I think it's just about even in terms of enjoyment level as Hoopsie Daisy is for me. But it's also one of those maps where you can kind of just get destroyed by fruit or people in front of you getting hit by fruit and then ragdolling into you, but I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that that's kind of the charm of the map. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for it. Now we're into the final games. We're gonna start with the big swinger, Hexagon. Hexagon is S tier. I am not going to order S tier. I think that my own personal bias puts Slime Climb as my favorite level in the game, but I think Hexagon is just as good. I think Hexagon is by far the best final game. I think the amount of strategy that there is to it just puts it at the top. It can get very chaotic when there are a lot of people. It can get very chaotic when there are a small amount of people and you're trying to hold out for the end. I think Hexagon's an incredibly designed final game. It's a good show of skill. It has a lot of decision making on trying to find a good path and then also trying to plan out where you're going to fall afterwards. It's just a very solid final. And I would be happy if I got Hexagon every game for every final. I think it's a great game. I'm going to put Fall Mountain here on A tier. Where in A tier, though? Where in A tier? I think Fall Mountain is an A tier map. I think it's chaotic. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to see people choke the crown, even if I'm the one who's choking the crown. I think it can suck when you get put in a bad position. When you start off in the back, it's kind of just like you get shafted going into the final round, and it's not a good feeling. But I think it's a very fun map. I think I enjoy it more than both Jump Showdown and Royal Fumble, that's for sure. I'm gonna put it above Tiptoe. I'm gonna put it above Tiptoe. I think it's a little bit more fun than Tiptoe is. Jump Showdown, I'm gonna put here in B tier. I'm gonna put it here, right below Dizzy Heights. I think Jump Showdown's a weird one because it's the newest map that's come to the game. I haven't had as much time on it as the others. So I feel like my positioning in this tier here on Jump Showdown is a bit questionable. And I feel like that could shift over the next few days as I get more games of Jump Showdown and I get to experience it more. It's better than Jump Club because it's more chaotic. I think it's a better final game than Royal Fumble. I think that there are some very cool moments that can happen when you're able to ride that spinning pole either to a victory or to another platform that you shouldn't normally be able to reach. But towards the end, it does come down to okay, I'm stuck on this platform with another person or the other person stuck on the other platform, and now I just have to wait for things to line up to knock them off, or I just have to wait for someone to choke, and I have to not be the person who does choke. And Royal Fumble, we're gonna put here, we're gonna put it in C tier. I'm gonna put Royal Fumble in C tier. I think Royal Fumble is worse than Tail Tag. I think Royal Fumble is the worst final game to go out on. I think this might be the most controversial pick that I have. And I think the reason that I'm putting it here is that I would enjoy Royal Fumble more. Actually, no. I'm gonna put it bottom of B tier. I'm gonna put it bottom of B tier. I enjoy it more than Seesaw. I think it's the worst final game. I think I would enjoy it more if I was better WoW. If it wasn't based on the last person who got the tail. If there was some form of, let's say half the lobby gets a tail, and it's total amount of time of you holding a tail. So that you don't just either snipe a win at the very end, or you lose a win at the very end when you've had a tail the entire game. Yeah, I think if half the lobby started with a tail, and then it was, you have 2 minutes and you want to be the person who's held a tail the longest amount of time, and you could see like a standing of how long each person has held a tail so you know who to target as well. I think that would be a much more interesting game if it was laid out like that, than if it was a game where you can just lose it at the very last second. Which, the fact that I'm putting it below Tail Tag, the reason that I am doing that, and I think this also might be a bit of a disagreement area as well, is because it's a final game. And I think my standards for what I want to see in final games are higher than that of the rest of the rounds. Hello everyone, Swift of the Future here. I was just in the middle of editing this video. I'd originally recorded this tier list a little over a week ago now, and in that time past I realized that I did want to make a few changes to it, but I also thought that it would be nice to let my original opinion stand, so I wanted to include all of that in there. In this last week of play, I've realized that I ended up ranking 3 levels a little bit higher than I think that they should be, so I'm gonna adjust that now. First off, we're gonna lower Fruit Shoot here. Fruit Shoot, I'm actually going to put in C tier behind Seesaw. I know in the original recording I said that part of the charm of Fruit Shoot was that you can just get completely destroyed by all of the random falling fruit, and in the last week or so, that has become a lot less charming and a lot more annoying. Getting knocked out of a game early on Fruit Shoot out of things that you can't control, especially if it does lose you a win streak, is not a fun experience at all to have. And I feel that the map as a whole is definitely a less solid map than Seesaw is as a race map, so I'm not sure why I included it in a tier above Seesaw in the first place. I think it's just because of Seesaw's length, but I think the map design of Seesaw in general makes it a better level, so I don't think Fruit Shoot has any reason to be ranked above that. There's 2 other levels that we're going to move down a tier as well. I think that these are a bit obvious, and it is Tail Tag, which I'm going to put below Egg Scramble, and Royal Fumble, which I'm going to put just below Tail Tag. I originally put Royal Fumble in C tier, then bumped it back up to B tier, then now I'm dropping it back to C tier. I know Royal Fumble's been seeing a lot of change, but I originally placed Tail Tag as well. I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be in B tier or C tier, In this last week, my opinion on these two games has finally solidified. I think especially with lag and latency, the tail grabbing mechanics just don't work the way that they're supposed to, and it makes both of these games really suffer. In addition to that, I feel that having a minute or so worth of just dead time at the start of a game where it really doesn't matter what you do or if you have a tail, because all it comes down to is the very end and you having a tail then, that really hurts the games as a whole. And it just adds a bunch of dead time to the start that really doesn't matter at all. So these are the only changes that I wanted to make. I feel very solid on this tier list as a whole. Outside of that, I hope everybody enjoyed watching this video. If there are any differences of opinion, or you think that I placed things incorrectly, let me know in the comments. I would love to have discussions about levels in this game. I've been really enjoying this game, so I want to hear what other people are thinking as well. If you made it to the end of this video and enjoyed it, please consider giving the video a like. It lets me know that people actually enjoy this content. Also, if you have any thoughts on the tier list as a whole, put them in the comments down below. And if you really enjoyed the video and want to see more content like it, please consider subscribing to the channel. I've been putting a lot of time into Fall Guys recently and have really been enjoying it as a game, and I'm interested in putting more content out like it as long as people do enjoy it, so this will really let me know if this is something that people do enjoy watching and if it's something I want to continue in the future. This video is the single longest project that I've worked on so far in terms of the amount of time it's taken to edit, so I really hope that it did turn out well. It was kind of a big undertaking for what I wanted to do with it. But despite all of that, this experience was really enjoyable and I had a lot of fun putting this video together. I'd love to be able to do more tier lists like this as more levels get added to the game, so let me know if this is something that you would be interested in seeing more of in the future, or if you would be interested in seeing more Fall Guys content in general, whether it be stream highlights, guides for different levels, or just going over patch notes as different patches come out. I'd love to make more content like this. If you want to see more content like this live, please consider giving me a follow on Twitch. My Twitch channel is here on screen right now. That's where this tier list was originally recorded with the input of some lovely chat members who I'm very happy to have around. I do a lot of Fall Guys, and in addition to that, I also speedrun RPGs and action games like Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts 0.2, Astral Chain, and Final Fantasy VII Remake, so give me a follow there if you're interested in more of that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.